The episode begins with events that took place 3 months before the metro bombing. Rose, the CEO of a cybersecurity company, is having a conversation with a reporter when her assistant interrupts to inform her about an urgent call from a client. Rose immediately takes the call. The client, the company's biggest and most important customer, sounds panicked. He explains that their company's servers have been hacked, and if the issue isn't resolved soon, their entire business will be ruined. Hearing this, Rose becomes tense and rushes to the server room, where one of her employees is desperately trying to fix the breach. It is then that Rose discovers the shocking truth. The mastermind behind the cyber attack is none other than her own friend, Adam. Despite her best efforts, Rose fails to save the client's company. And this is where the second episode of Night Agent begins. Now, the story shifts to the present, where Rose is being questioned by Diane and Hawkins. If you watched the previous episode, you'd know that Rose is currently under interrogation. However, she refuses to disclose anything because she overheard her uncle and aunt saying that there is a traitor in the White House. Hawkins senses that Rose is hiding something. Diane, however, explains that they should give her some time as she has just lost her uncle and aunt. Diane then instructs Peter to take Rose to a hotel where Secret Service agents will ensure her safety. As they drive to the hotel, Rose turns to Peter and says, "I'm not going to tell them anything. If I do, they'll kill me too." Upon reaching the hotel, Peter informs Rose that 4 Secret Service agents are stationed in the lobby, while 2 are positioned outside her room. He then escorts her inside. Before leaving, Peter tells Rose, "I have to return to my duty now." His job involves receiving calls at the White House and assisting night agents, just as he had helped Rose before. Before walking away, he reassures Rose, "There's no need to worry. The agents outside will keep you safe." With that, Peter departs. Next, we see the 2 assassins who killed Rose's uncle and aunt. Their names are Dale and Ellen. Both are highly skilled hitmen, professionals who kill for money. Meanwhile, Peter returns to the White House and attends a meeting with top agents. During this meeting, it becomes clear that Hawkins does not like Peter. The discussion reveals that Rose's uncle and aunt were working on a separate case that no one knew about. After the meeting, Diane pulls Peter aside and says, "Hawkins knows something. I'll give you all the case files related to Rose's uncle and aunt. Your job is to find any connection between them and Hawkins." Peter takes the files and goes to see a friend, hoping to learn more about the ring he found. His friend examines it and explains, "This symbol belongs to the royal family of Yugoslavia. There are some slight differences, but it could be linked to a distant relative of a prince." When Peter's shift begins, he heads to work while continuing his research on Rose's uncle and aunt's case files. During his investigation, he makes a shocking discovery. Hawkins was their handler. Peter immediately calls Diane to share the information. Surprised, Diane responds, "I had no idea. This stays between us." With this revelation, suspicion falls entirely on Hawkins. Just then, Peter receives another call on the same line. When he answers, he is startled to hear Rose's voice. He is taken aback, wondering how she even remembered this number. Rose asks Peter for updates on the case, to which he replies that the investigation is still ongoing. After a brief pause, she extends an invitation. "Join me for breakfast tomorrow." On the other side, we see Dale and Ellen in their room. Ellen insists that they should open the bag. This is the same bag we saw in the final scene of episode 1, which they obtained after killing a woman. Dale, however, warns her, "The less we know about it, the better for us." Ignoring him, Ellen opens the bag. Inside, she finds a toy with a hidden spy camera. Just then, Dale receives a call from his boss. The voice on the other end says, "I'm sending you the target's address. Take them out immediately. If they talk, we're all doomed." Dale notes down the address and replies, "Consider it done." As the scene unfolds, we see that the vice president is also present in the same room. So, is the vice president involved in the metro bombing? That remains to be seen as the story progresses. The next day, after finishing his shift, Peter goes to meet Diane. Since she isn't there, he falls asleep, knowing he has to meet Rose early in the morning. Diane later wakes him up, and Peter hands her the files, saying, "I've marked all the cases where Hawkins and Rose's uncle and aunt worked together." Peter then informs Diane that Rose had invited him for breakfast and asks for permission to go. Diane allows it. When Peter arrives at the hotel, he notices that the security agents in the lobby are missing. Suddenly, the power goes out. Instantly, he realizes that Rose is in danger. Peter rushes to her room, only to find that no security agents are stationed outside. He immediately draws his gun and enters. Spotting Rose, he quickly gets her out through the back door. His instincts prove right. Ellen, disguised as a housekeeper, had come to kill Rose. Realizing Rose has escaped, Ellen radios Dale, who responds, "Meet me at the stairwell." Just then, Dale spots Peter and Rose and opens fire. Peter shoots back, and they flee into a large hall, with Dale close behind. Another round of gunfire erupts inside the hall before Peter and Rose manage to escape into a room, locking the door behind them. Peter checks his gun and says, "We're out of bullets, we have to jump." He smashes through a glass window and steps forward, but the weakened glass beneath him breaks, sending him falling. From below, he urges Rose to jump, but she hesitates. Eventually, she takes the leap. They run to a nearby clothing store, steal a phone, and hide in a changing room. Rose tells Peter to call Diane. At that moment, Diane is in a board of directors meeting when she picks up. Peter quickly explains the situation, adding, "Until things settle down, we'll stay somewhere safe and keep in touch." Back in the meeting, everyone notices that Hawkins is missing. Suspicion immediately falls on him. He could be the one who pulled security from the hotel. Meanwhile, Rose turns to Peter and says, "We have to find out what my uncle and aunt were investigating." They head to the house where Rose's uncle and aunt were killed. Overcome with emotion, Rose remembers that they had once told her about some drives hidden in the forest. Peter guesses, maybe they were talking about hard drives. Rose nods and says, "Now I understand everything." Meanwhile, Hawkins meets with a mysterious man, none other than Dale and Ellen's boss. This raises further suspicion that Hawkins might be part of the conspiracy, though it's yet to be confirmed. Back in the forest, Rose leads Peter to a secluded area where her uncle and aunt used to take her as a child. There, they find an old house and begin searching for the hidden drives. They spend hours looking, and as evening falls, they still haven't found anything. Meanwhile, Ellen is shown growing frustrated and impatient with their failed attempts to kill Rose. Dale, however, reassures her, "We'll finish the job tomorrow." Just then, their boss calls them. His voice is firm and commanding as he warns, "You need to finish this immediately." Peter and Rose continue searching until Peter finally finds the drive. However, the drive is encrypted, meaning it's locked. Since Rose was once the head of a cybersecurity firm, Peter asks her to hack into it. But Rose shakes her head and says, "This is national-level security. We'll need a high-end system to decrypt it properly." Just then, Peter notices something. The encrypted folder is labeled 2781. It hits him instantly. 2781 is the same metro number where the bombing took place last year. This revelation confirms one thing: there's a direct connection between the metro bombing and this drive. At that moment, Peter's phone rings. It's Diane. Her voice is tense as she informs him, Hawkins is dead. Someone murdered him. Peter is left completely stunned. Was Hawkins truly involved with the conspirators, or was he silenced before he could talk? The episode ends here, leaving behind more questions than answers.